lawmaker from Western New York is bringing attention to a bill that would give paid time off to state troopers after someone dies at an incident they've answered the call to.
Only 2 other states actually have this rule on their books. Hoping New York will be the 3rd state is Assemblyman Patrick Burke and State Troopers Union President Charles Murphy. Gentlemen, thank you for being here.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
We have been spending a lot of time on mental health for first responders. And so I'm so glad that we're continuing this conversation because it is out there. It's in the news. We're hearing incidents about situations like this.
Yeah.
So talk to us a little bit about the foundation of this bill, and then we'll talk about how it'll help state troopers and other.
Sure. Charlie, you want to start?
It's your bill.
Okay.
Go ahead.
So, I mean, it's a basic concept, and it's something that I presume was already the law, that if you're in a critical incident that is, essentially no fault of your own as a law enforcement officer, you would get time to take care of your mental health, focus on your family. If any of us were in a situation like that, we couldn't go back to work the next day, especially with such an important job where every day these guys, they deal with life and death situations. We want them at their best. We want to support their families. And right now, that's not the law of the land. It really shocked me that that's not how things work. In an environment where we know the political environment has sort of pulled police into this sort of culture war, there's so much more pressure on them. We want good people, we want committed people to become police officers. That's what we all want. And we have to send that message that, we're going to take care of you. You're taking care of the community. We're going to take care of you, and we're going to appreciate you too.
And to go off that, everyone handles trauma differently. Everyone heals differently, right? I'm curious, what are you hearing from your troopers when it comes to PTSD and mental health?
Well, we're thankful for the Assemblyman for actually listening to this and taking up the cause. And for our membership, they're very aware that the 72 hours that they're currently possibly going to get, which is not guaranteed, is insufficient. And the reality is the PTSD not only affects the member involved, but the family and friends of that individual. So not only do they have to deal with the consequences of having to be involved in that incident, they need to try to explain it to their family, their children. We really did need the Assemblyman to take up this bill and work it so that now the governor can sign it, because that will actually give the protections to our membership who are involved in these critical incidents.
Yeah. We know that mental health is a big issue with first responders, and I said it's come up recently, and this has come up big time when the bus rollover happened just a couple of weeks ago on the thruway. 5 people died. All other 52 people on board that bus were injured. And you saw the posts on social media, on Facebook, on Instagram, other places by first responders.
All those agencies.
Volunteers. They're saying, we've never experienced something like this. This is traumatic. And they're writing through their trauma. So you know that it exists. As a first responder, I mean, you see this out there. What goes through your mind? Because I know you see those same posts, Charles, right? You see people writing through their trauma. You
do. You see people writing through their trauma. And the reality is, in the moment, we tend to just become myopic and focus on the event itself. And that's why we do see, this is Suicide Prevention Awareness Month, and we do see the higher rates of suicide amongst law enforcement officers because they bury that incident down and don't really have the time to deal with it. That's why we think this is a voluntary opportunity for them, and it takes away the stigma of actually asking for help and trying to deal with the consequences of the incidents.
Yeah. Pat, when you were putting this legislation together, as we mentioned before, there's just 2 other states that have a similar policy. How does this compare to those policies? What did you look at?
I think, we worked with all of our partners, and certainly Charlie and his team were very influential in how the bill was crafted, and you do this sort of back and forth, and you try and you can from every piece of legislation, but there isn't a lot of examples. Usually you don't. Sometimes people brag about being the first. You don't really want to be the first. But being the third, I think, is a good way. We're showing leadership, but also some others have started this trend, but now we really need to see it grow, and it should grow beyond just troopers. It should be all law enforcement officers should have this available to them. So from our locals, our sheriffs, we really hope that this becomes a growth and a trend in the country, but also locally and in the state as well.
I like what you said when you started, Pat, that this was something you assumed that law enforcement already had available to them as a resource, enough time off if they needed it for their mental health.
Yeah.
I imagine, like you said, it's kind of a no-brainer. This has to have that similar support in Albany, hopefully, and do we think it'll be brought up this session?
It's really hard to get bipartisan support on anything at all. And this one, it was hard. Don't get me wrong. I actually thought, and when we talked earlier, I thought it was going to be a lot easier. I'm like, hey, I got this. And then the amount of actual work it took and how much how much collaboration with Charlie and his team and my team and our Senate counterparts. It was like the last day of session, the last few days of session, we finally got it through, and now we just need this last step. We need the governor to sign this bill. I think it's really common sense legislation. I expect she will do this, but I don't know her thought pattern on this yet.
Looking at the fine details, what are the logistics? What qualifies for those 15, 20 days? What incidents?
So, critical incidents, as this bill defines, it will be, serious physical injury and/or death caused by the member. And so, to the point of the bus accident, we think that's where the legislation ultimately should grow to really acknowledge the traumatic incidents that people are faced with. This is very narrowly focused on where you would have a use of force that causes serious physical and/or death.
Got it. So again, narrow focus, but
Yes.
it is a start, and you have to start somewhere.
Absolutely.
And let's hope we get this thing signed into law. We'll keep up on it for sure. Pat Burke, thank you very much. Charles Murphy, thank you very much.
Thank you.
for
Thanks,
what
guys.
you're doing. This is really important.
Thank you.
you.
Great to be here.